CWL Seattle is over. Rise Nation are our champs, and we're going to talk a little bit about the grand finals. We're going to evaluate those Roster Mania teams post-Seattle. And finally, speaking of Roster Mania, do we have another one ahead of us? We'll dive into all of that. This is Trading Shots. We got Maven as usual, but we got a new face on the set as well. Benson is sick, so we got someone who actually knows something about Call of Duty. Anthony Nameless Wheeler is here with us to destroy Maven. Nameless, welcome to the show.
I'm very excited to be here, man. I can't wait to talk about Seattle. It was a crazy tournament, a lot of interesting results, some stuff that we did not expect. It was crazy.
Hey, we finally get to call Maven out on everything dumb that he says.
Cool.
All right, Maven, it was great to have you all three throughout Seattle, Nameless, unlike Maven, and joining us here on Trading Shots as well. Let's jump right into it. Turn up your sound. It's time for First Blood. Every event just keeps getting better and better and better and better, and CWL Seattle was no exception. The roster changes were one of the biggest stories coming into Seattle, and how the teams performed was the ultimate payoff. The top 6 teams all made roster changes prior to this event. The grand finals featured a team in Evil Geniuses that absolutely no one expected to be there. Ben gave their roster move an F for F's sake. Meanwhile, Rise Nation, a team that maybe we did expect to be in the grand final, made an insane losers bracket run and won the entire tournament. They had one of the greatest turnarounds ever. Let that sink in, because here's the question. What was more impressive, Rise Nation's run over the event or Evil Geniuses running through the competition? Maven, you predicted Optic Gaming was going to win, and that proved to be a horrible call. So I'm starting you off with -2 points,
Thanks.
and you're not going first either. Nameless, it's your first time on the show. Let's talk Rise or Evil Geniuses?
I think you got to say Rise. They started top 20 in losers bracket. They did not have a good performance on Friday. They ended up running through every single team in losers bracket, making it all the way to the finals. And not only did they win one best of 5, they won both. Took home that trophy. I think Rise definitely turned up at this tournament. But that doesn't take anything away from Evil Geniuses. You know, they played really good. They ended up, getting a top 2 placing. That's their best placing all year, next to top 8. You know, it's something that EG's been falling to the entire year. And Rise just had such an incredible performance. I got to give my hat off to them.
You know, this is a Smack Talk show, though, Nameless. If you want to say anything about EG, this is a safe place to do so.
What can I say about them, though, man? Like, I'm not on the team anymore, and they're top 2. That's impressive. You know, they went back home, they learned a lot, and they improved, and they played well here. If they deserve to be Smack Talk, I'll Smack Talk them, but I got to give them respect, man.
All right, maybe Maven will have some Smack Talk. Maven, what do you think about the topic?
I mean, part of me agrees with what Nameless said, just because Rise came into this tournament likely with the most pressure on them, right? They make a change that was questionable to some. You still get Slasher, but think about just all the pressure on team to make that change. Even when you go from, like, what seems minimal when you have a top AR to a top AR, everyone was calling them out. And then if you look at Friday the pressure mounts, all the memes start coming in. They're so disappointing, and they have to make that crazy run. But I feel like I still think it's got to be EG. Now, did they have the hardest run to get to the grand final? No, they probably had, in the scheme of things, one of the easier ones. Was this event a perfect storm? You know, you had all the team changes before it. You had the meta change before it. You had rumors of roster changes that may be getting in the heads of some of the top teams. But they took advantage of the situation, and they cruised through the winner's bracket. I thought it was phenomenal. You see Patrick Price in his first final in a long time. Silly, a guy that just got dropped from a team, makes that run the entire way. Did they win it? No, but to get top 2, I think it's incredibly impressive. You can't knock them because maybe the competition wasn't there in the bracket. That wasn't their choice. That's what was handed to them. They took advantage of it. They pushed it all the way to a grand final. I thought it was awesome.
All right, Maven, I'm actually going to give you 2 points right now. So that's going to get rid of the -2 points that I gave you.
Thanks,
because
idiot.
I do agree with your argument partially. I'm going to deduct another point for insulting me here. So that's +1 point that you're ultimately going to get, because you got to look. This was a huge improvement to that roster, but I'm going to go ahead and give Nameless 2 points. And the reason for that is, look, we just saw history get made.
Sure.
I mean, they go from all the way to losers further back than ever before, only guaranteeing top 20, and they get that double best of 5 going. But it's time to move on to Quickscope. Quick reminder, you only have a short time to make your points for this portion of the show.
All right.
Tonight we'll be running through some of the teams that made roster changes during that Roster Mania period prior to CWL Seattle, and I want to know if the team change was a hit or if it was a miss. First team that we're going to talk about is Team EnVyUs. They lose Slasher and Temp. It's definitely a big hit, but the team, they rebound very nicely. They pick up Chino and Decimate, and it showed in pool play. They finished 4-0, but it did not go the way they planned in the championship bracket. Not at all. They finished top 12. All right, guys, after one event, was the team change for Team EnVyUs a hit or a miss? Are they better than before? Maven, you get to go first.
I think you have to say it's a hit because they get put in a tough spot. I mean, moments after they lose at the tournament, at Stage 1 playoffs, they lose Slasher, one of the best players in the game, and it's like, oh, God, how is this team possibly going to rebound from that? You get Decimate, you get Chino. Now, they were phenomenal in hardpoint. I mean, you had, averaging nearly 2 minutes in the hardpoint for Chino after day one. He had a game where he had 3.5 minutes in the hardpoint. He basically scored every point outside of 20 to 30 seconds. They were so good in hardpoint. The only place they really slipped up was Search and Destroy, and I saw a tweet from Decimate that really stood out to me. He said they didn't have a lot of time. It's all strategy. They felt sluggish in Search. They didn't think the comms were there. The strategy was there. It's all on Search for them. They're going to improve. I think you have to say it's a hit, definitely with the situation they were stuck in with Slasher leading.
Man, I hate when you make sense. Luckily, it's not that often, but Nameless, it's going to be your turn.
I think it's definitely a hit. You know, they lose to Rise Nation here after going 4-0 in pool play.
That's a tough matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough matchup. And I definitely think it's a hit, though, because that team, you know, Hook and Classic just seemed like they were so comfortable with this team. They didn't have much time to prepare for this tournament. They end up playing really, really good here on Friday. They can't bring that all the way into Sunday, but it's definitely a hit for that team. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the league.
You know what, Maven? I'm going to slide 2 points on over to you.
Thank you, sir.
I think you made your argument very well, and I think as we do give this team a little bit of time to grow, they could be quite scary. But let's move along. eUnited, they dropped Silly, and they pick up Fellow prior to CWL Seattle. At the event, they finished 2-2 in pools and started out in the winner's bracket with a couple of sweeps, but their weekend ended with them getting swept twice. A surprise team, but we saw the same eUnited not coming up with the wins when they needed to. Nameless, was eUnited's team change a hit or was it a miss?
You know, I want to say it's a hit because they do end up getting a top 4 placing here, but I'm going to say miss. I just don't think that this team can continue to perform like this going forward. I don't think they have what it takes to, win a championship. And when you make a roster change like that, you do want to make a team that can win a championship. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's a miss, and just because of their performance this weekend. I don't think that they're going to be able to beat these teams consistently, and I didn't really see that many impressive moments out of eUnited. So I'm looking for them to step it up in the future.
I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up question before we toss it over to Maven. Was Silly really the issue with this roster in your mind?
I don't think Silly was the issue with the United roster per se. I just think that team did not want to play with each other anymore. And given the circumstances that they had, I think that Silly was the easiest person to drop. He was the person that wasn't performing in the slaying category, and kind of when you drop a player, you go for that player that's not putting up the kills. So they drop Silly. He ends up going to a team that beats them and outplaces them in this tournament, and they pick up a player in Fellow who, hasn't really had the best year. He kind of filled that gap for them in that fast-paced submachine gun role, and it's working decently, but I don't think they're going to be able to continue.
All right, Maven, what do you got for us?
It depends kind of what your definition of hit or miss is. Like, is it a hit in the sense they're going to be able to rival maybe top teams? Not really. I kind of agree with that there, but I still think it's a hit for the pure reason that they fix some of the role issues they have, and obviously the placement is very hard to ignore. They get into a winner's bracket final, they get a top 3 spot, they get over the top 6 curse, so I think it's a hit if you want to at least have to look at the results. Now, I just don't know if they're going to be able to continue it, but they fixed so many of the issues they had previously that I think you have to at least label it a hit. Is it a huge hit? No, but I still think it's a hit nonetheless.
Yeah, Maven, you do a good job arguing it there, but Nameless is going to get the points. He goes into detail much better and shows a decent amount of insight. So you're going to take 2 points there, Nameless, because you really do break down something that only a player could have. You kind of hit it on the head, and you really do. I think we got to really respect Silly in this situation, but let's move on to Echo Fox. This is the next team to discuss. They were another surprise team. I know a lot of the players believed that they were one of the most improved, and that proved to be the case in quite a few ways. They bring in Temp for Assault and end up going 3-1 in pool play. Maven, was this team change a hit or was it a miss? And also, how big of an impact was Temp?
I believe Nameless and I are going to agree on this one because we both actually picked them to be the most improved team after the team change. So when you take a look at Echo Fox, they had obviously role concerns. You had a couple top AR players with Aqua and Assault. You don't really know who's going to be that main AR. Assault is out. Aqua gets back to a position of strength, and now you bring in Timp. I feel like that flex role fits him perfectly. He can get it done with a sub. He can get it done with an AR. He's that guy that can kind of play off pace. He can play fast when he needs to. He can play slow when he needs to. And I think he was incredible. He had a lot of big moments for this team. He was a big part of the reason they were able to beat Team Kaliber and get that top 4 finish. For me, yeah, I was impressed. I like the change, and I think this team can even push past where they finished.
All right, Nameless, what do you got for us?
Yeah, something Maven didn't really touch on that I think is a big reason why this team is a definite hit is that they won most of their search and destroys of this tournament. They didn't win many of their hard points, and if that team goes home and they practice their hard point, they can bring home a championship. That's a team that was in the toughest pool here at CWL Seattle. They end up making it out on top. They beat FaZe, your most recent champions. They beat Rise, your next most recent champions, and they end up getting a top 4 placing here, which is something that's not easy to do with a week's time of practice.
No, it is not.
Echo Fox, a definite hit, and they definitely have the skill to do it in the future.
All right, 4 points to Nameless, 2 for having the better argument, and 2 for making Maven look dumb while you do it.
You said the same thing!
Shut up! Okay, last team to discuss here, it's Team Kaliber. The team prior to Roster Mania were at one point back-to-back tournament champs at the beginning of the season. Something we rarely see, but the success honestly didn't last long because good old Uncle Maven came along and put a hex on them, and TK opted to just start over. They dropped Chino and Theory for Methods and Pharaoh. It's tough to say whether or not the move paid off, but I'll leave it to our experts to decide. Guys, Team Kaliber ultimately finished top 6. An admirable effect, but the question is whether the roster move was a hit or a miss when it comes to the additions. Did the moves fix their issues? Nameless, you get to start.
I do not think that the Team Kaliber roster change was a hit at all. I think it was a definite miss, and the reason being is that Lamar takes on, or Accuracy takes on, a tall task in being that flex player on his team. I don't think he does a very good job being that flex player. I think he's better off as a main AR. I think Methods is a really good main AR, so they're going to have role issues going forward. Pharaoh needed to come out here and have a dominant performance, which is something I really don't think that he did at all here at CWL Seattle. I think TK are going to have to go back to the drawing board, fix a lot of issues going forward, and step it up for stage 2.
All right, Maven, what do you got for us?
I think it's a hit purely because you saw the potential. Like, you lose Echo Fox, you get top 6. That's disappointing. They think they can put past that. I know there's more pressure on them since they've obviously won 2 tournaments, and you're expecting to do the same. But the big thing here for me, I agree with Nameless in the sense that Pharaoh maybe didn't have the best event, but he is going to be, in my eyes, one of the most improved players over the next month or 2. When he gets to stage 2 and he's consistently playing with these guys, getting better at Variant, we already know what he can do with Search and Destroy, I think this team is going to improve a ton. When you take a look at the teams that made changes that I think have the most ability to improve, I think without question it's Team Kaliber. And when it boils down to it, they had to make a change. That team was changing no matter what. They went with what they were able to get, and I don't know. I'm pumped for what they're able to do.
Their last roster would have got top 6. Same exact result.
It maybe would have, but like I think the difference here is you know what you get with Theory. Like I think he's sort of at his limit. Pharaoh, I don't think has even approached that yet. I think he's going to absolutely improve. I don't see how he doesn't get better in hardpoint and CTF. And now he's got a good team around him that I think can really coach him and help him improve.
So I'm going to give Maven 2 points for what you said about Pharaoh. The fact that he can really kind of go on a warpath here. He can grow on the team, but that really wasn't the question per se. We had to figure out if it was a hit or a miss at this event in particular.
Did you say that? No, we're talking about this. We're talking about this roster. This roster is not done right now. They still have time to make plays.
Maven,
you can't just talk about this weekend. Come on.
Maven, do you want to sass me right now?
Yes, I do.
All right, so we're going to take all the points that I just awarded to Maven away, and now we're going to give them to Nameless because he actually worked within the confines of the rules, something that Maven should quickly learn how to do. Otherwise, he is destined for jail time. So Nameless, you're going to get 2 points here. But we got one more question inside of this segment. Which team was the biggest disappointment? This one's pretty tricky, but Nameless, since you got that last one, we're going to let you start off here.
I'm going to go with Splice. You know, the easy answer is Optic Gaming, but I'm definitely going to go with Splice. You know, they get top 2 at Birmingham. You know, they have a lot of time to practice and get better going into this next event being CWL Seattle, and they come here and they get a top 20 placement. You know, that's something that you don't expect out of players like Tommy, Bance, Jerd, Madcat. Those are top players within the scene. They've been dominating in Europe for years. They come here expecting to do well. They get top 20. They let down the European scene, and I expect them to make a change going forward if they want to improve.
All right, Maven.
He said it's the easy answer, but I think it's the correct answer. It's got to be Optic Gaming. You finished top 16. You didn't even play on Sunday. That is just horrific with this 4-man roster. It can't happen. And what kind of doubles down on it for me? The reason I find it so embarrassing, you hear all these issues about them not scrimming, maybe not giving it their all, being frustrated. It's pathetic, man. You are the greatest Call of Duty team of all time, the greatest dynasty of all time. Top 16 is
Yeah, Maven, I'm actually going to give you 4 points here. Nameless, you're correct in a lot of ways, but the thing is Europe's been inconsistent pretty much the entire year. I think that there wasn't as much pressure on them at all. We just watched a team that for over 3 years was together, and a dynasty may have just ended in a sweep against LG in the losers bracket on Saturday. Let that sink in. Maven, enjoy those 4 points, because I doubt you'll get any more in this. Because you're really... All right, next up, which team overperformed? And Maven, you get to kick this one off.
Which team overperformed?
Yeah, which team overperformed? You heard me.
I mean, I guess you could talk about either sort of eUnited or EG, and that comes simply because we talked about the fact that they had maybe kind of an easier path to get there. And that's mostly going to boil down. It's not really to knock them exactly, but you take a look at it. The losers bracket looks like the winners bracket. The winners bracket looks like the losers bracket. Do I think that eUnited and EG type teams are going to continually be in the top 3? No, I sure as hell do not. I think it's going to balance out. Obviously, there's a meta change. There's a lot of team changes. Teams are going to have more and more time going into stage 2. If I had to pick one that I think isn't going to continue to match that, I think I go eUnited. I think I like what I saw from EG more.
So you think eUnited overperformed the most?
Yes. eUnited overperformed the most.
All right, cool. I'm going to take a few seconds here to try to actually figure out exactly what you were saying, but Nameless, go ahead.
Is it that confusing, Rich?
Yeah, Maven, I don't think you understand how the rest of the world hears you, but Nameless, what do you think? Which team overperformed?
I mean, it's easy to say United or Evil Geniuses, but they look damn good at points during this tournament. So I'm going to go ahead and say Ghost Gaming. They get top 6 of this tournament, coming through open bracket. They had a hot Saturday. They played really well in these days in this tournament, but I don't think they're going to be able to replicate that going forward. They're not going to be in the stage 2. They're not going to be able to get that practice in consistently against the top teams. And I think when we look at Anaheim, we look at the last chance qualifier and COD champs, I think Ghost Gaming sees their highest placement at this tournament.
It might not even be the same team. Like, we might not even see them perform again for all we know, to be honest, since they're not in stage 2.
They got top 6 here, and they definitely overperformed. They exceeded their limits. I don't think they'll be able to do it again at all.
Yeah, and Maven, Nameless is going to get all of the points there. We're going to toss 3 points your way. I've been a huge fan of a few of these guys on the roster for quite some time. I've been on the Pander Express for a while now. Also have loved watching GodderX. But the question is, was Haggy really the addition that they needed? I think they did overperform, but I'm excited to see what these guys can do. But it's time to head into our final segment of the night. It's time for the grand finals.
Whee!
We're now looking forward to the next possible wave of roster mania with the new meta and seeing how the teams that did change perform so well at Seattle. Safe to say we're going to see some craziness go down. That being said, the first question I got to ask you players, which team needs a team change the most? And I want to know who would get dropped. Nameless, you know these guys the best. You get to go first.
If you're looking at Optic Gaming, it's going to be Karma, who's probably going to get dropped from that team. He's been underperforming. Everybody's seen it at times. I think he'll thrive on another team where he can kind of play like himself, maybe be that AR role and play it to his top level. And I think Optic Gaming need a change of pace. They need a new scenery. They need some sort of change. Top 16 is definitely as disappointing as it gets for a team like that. But if we're talking about some other teams, I'm going to go ahead and say Ice and Red Reserve drastically need to have a change. Maybe sort of a roster swap go down there, maybe 2 for 2, something like that. Scraps is sitting there. He's like the golden ticket in Europe, just playing so well at all these tournaments, just sitting there waiting to be picked up, waiting to be taught. And I think one of them needs to make a play for him, or they need to do a 2-2 swap.
Honestly, Scraps could play in the NA, but I highly doubt if he moved here, anyone would understand anything that he said. But Maven, what do you think on this topic?
He took basically all of the really good answers. So,
all right, we're going to go ahead and award 5 points over to Nameless.
I was going to say Splice. That was going to be my answer, and I honestly didn't even know who I was going to drop. So, yeah, just give me negative points. That's fine.
Nameless went ahead
and
just
took all of them. He said like 3 of them.
All right, we got one more. Maven, this is going to be your chance for redemption.
Thanks.
Which team that previously made a change needs to switch their roster up again, and who should be dropped, Maven?
Oh, God. Which team made a change and may need to do it again? I guess one that maybe comes to mind, Complexity. I mean, I know they look good on Friday, but is this a team that I think is going to win consistently or put on a good performance in Stage 2? Personally, no. What's tricky for that, I guess if I was going to pick somebody that you may have to take off, it might be somebody from that Blast Ricky doing. The problem is you can't take those two out because that's what's going to secure you the spot. But Complexity is one to come to mind that of all the teams that made roster changes that I didn't think had a chance to make a deep run this weekend, it's Complexity.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one as well. Nameless, what do you got for us?
It's hard to say. I got to agree with Maven here. I hate to say it. I agree with him, though. It's got to be Complexity. It's the one team that made a change that didn't really make a deep run. You see the top 6 teams in this tournament, they all made a change. Complexity makes a change. They get that league spot.
All the
and
other teams look good and show potential. It's like, how do you call it anybody else? We just went through it and basically said every other team was a hit for the most part. That's just one that kind of comes to mind.
All right, yeah. So, Nameless, I understand how you agree or hate agreeing with Maven. Imagine if that was your full-time job, just like mine. But we're going to go ahead and give 3 points on over to Maven. And you know what? Let's keep this interesting. Let's add one more question. Let's see if Maven can maybe claw back into this. I'm terrible at math. I don't even know where we're at this point, but I know you're far behind. So last question. Time to score some points. Which team shouldn't make a team change, but probably will? I want to know what team should ride out the storm and stick together. Maven, go ahead and kick this off.
Oh, I am going to stick with what I've said all year. The talent, the personnel is not the problem with Optic Gaming. They can be the best team in the world. They can win events. There is nothing holding them back when you talk about the core values of what this team is able to do from a player standpoint. The problem and what's so frustrating about this team, it's coming down to egos, relationships. Are these guys even friends anymore? Are they willing to put in the time to scrim to prove they're the best? I think they're going to make a change. I just don't think they need to. Like, they can win with this group. Just worry that something's broken that they can't fix, man, and it kills me because as long as I've been casting, this team has basically been a roster. It is one of the most pleasurable experiences of my life to see this team last it out for 3.5 years, and I wish it would go longer. I just don't think it does.
All right. How about you, Nameless?
I'm going to disagree with Maven. He was arguing sentiment, but I'm going to go with LG. I think that's the actual team that needs to stick together here. They've gotten top 4 multiple times this year. They won a championship in Birmingham. At New Orleans, they were in that final situation. They won the first best of 5, lose the second one in a Game 5 series where they could have 2 championships in this game. They fall a little bit early here at CWL Seattle. They showed a little bit of life in the losers bracket. They could have made that run. Unfortunately, they fall in a Game 5 to Rise, who ended up winning the entire tournament. I think Luminosity definitely have what it takes to get back to the top. They can make a run. Those are champions on that team. That team needs to stick together.
Well, I think LG, like, you can tag as an outlier, obviously. Like, this weekend's been crazy. There's so many wild results, but they have all the performances leading up to it. I think what's scary, and my pick for Optic, is they haven't really had the results. Outside the second place finish of stage 2 playoffs, they haven't looked good at all this year.
Exactly.
That's why I think the change will happen, but I just saw, God, they can win. I know they can win. I know they can, Rich.
Sentiment.
I agree
with
Nameless.
I have a big-ass heart.
You're using your heart, not your mind right now, and that's why Nameless is going to crush you here and take 10 points.
10!
All kingdoms must fall. I only asked that question to give you a chance,
Honestly,
but you fell on your face.
At least Nameless was competition. Beating Ben every week hasn't even been fun.
It's been getting sad. I actually think that's why he's out sick still.
Yeah.
But
I made him sick.
You guys are already wearing your headsets, so you can't put on your A40 Astro Gaming headsets, but it's time for the Smack Talk Winner Circle presented by Astro Gaming. Nameless, your 30 seconds start now.
Other than Maven being bald, I don't think there's any other shots I really want to throw at him, and I want to say that thank you to MLG for allowing me to be on the analyst desk here. I had a really good time here at CWL Seattle, one of the most incredible events I've ever been to in my entire life. I'm excited to continue this season, and Champs being in Ohio, I'm really excited for that. Columbus, it's like our backyard, so excited for that. See you guys all at COD Champs.
Good luck getting on a team.
All right, I'm gonna just say we got the also Maven. You're not allowed to trade shots anymore at this point in the show. But we got the best roster change. We got the best upgrade on the desk. That's gonna be it though for our episode of Trading Shots. Shots were traded, CWL was debated, and we got another roster mania potentially coming up, and stage 2 is in just a few weeks, and then that champs announcement has got me so excited. Guys, I think this may be my last Trading Shots for a little while.
Thank God!
You know, you couldn't just for once just be my buddy. I'm not allowed to wear cheetah print on the show, which means I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it anymore. GG's, and good night.